Good morning, sports fans. You're listening to 96.9 FM WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio.
This is Eric Hatfield along with Coach Perry Daniels, and we are here to bring you the latest, the greatest, the best, and the most entertaining in high school, college, and professional sports. You are listening to Louisiana All American Sports. Ain't nobody dope as me. Oh yeah, I'm back in the building. Y'all had a whole week of silence and peace and quiet, and now I'm back. Good morning and welcome to Louisiana All American Sports on 96.9 FM WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio. This is Eric Hatfield.
And I'm Coach. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Perry. Go ahead.
I'm Coach Perry Daniels.
And I'm Professor Johnson.
All right, and this is Piper, better known as Joker P.
And we are in the building for another piping hot, smoking edition of Louisiana All American Sports. Unless you are an ostrich and have been underground for the last week, you know there's a whole lot in the world of sports to talk about. Look, let's go ahead and step up to bat and lead this baby off with. First of all, we're going to get you guys caught up on what went on in the world of high school sports last night, and. We have get a few scores that rolled in yesterday from the Baton Rouge area. You just let me know when you're ready. Okay. Tara was able to defeated a meet in Mississippi. Went to Meade County, Mississippi. Won that game on the road last night, 26-20. Christian Life Academy blasted East Iberville 54-0. Ascension Episcopal defeated False River 35-6. Dunham was nipped by Ascension Catholic 24-23. U-High versus Southern Lab, the battle of the U schools. It was looked like a competitive contest considering we know the caliber of U-High, but U-High did win 19-6.
And you know what, Eric? In that game, man, it was interesting to me to see how far the Southern Lab program has come.
Oh.
Because you and I covered this very same game last year, and it wasn't competitive at all.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, that team is just the job that the coaching staff has done over there is just remarkable. The turnaround they've done in 12 months that we've seen. We saw them we saw U-High throw them all over the field last year at this time at home. At home, they went to U-High for this one, right?
That's right. That's right. And a couple of things to point out, though. Well, one thing to point out: Nick Brosette, the LSU committee for 2015, was ejected from this game yesterday in the second quarter with about 9 minutes and 25 seconds left. He got into a skirmish with Carl Patrick Ozing of the Southern Lab Kittens, the Southern Lab Cubs, and Kittens, that's right, High Cubs.
Yep.
So that could have been the difference. Nick Brosette's a beast. But I wonder what does that mean going forward for that young man, the Louisiana High School Athletic Association. If you are ejected from a game, you have to sit out the following game. Right,
that's going to... Go ahead, I'm sorry, Perry.
No, I just don't know if it's going to make it to that level, which... an athlete the caliber of Brosette, you would think that the next week's opponent will make sure that rule is enforced so that he will not play next week. And then what does that mean for his scholarship to LSU?
Well, I think on the first one, only any opponent would be insane to not enforce that rule. So I think he's out next week, which is going to put a crimp on U-High. I mean, we've seen they have talented running backs, but obviously Brosette is the straw that stirs the drink. But his scholarship to LSU, unless this becomes I can't see it affecting. I mean, talent is talent, and I don't think Les Miles is going to turn down that kind of talent over a little athletes fight. At least not unless it becomes a pattern, you know?
Yeah.
Perry, let me chime in. Of course, we always have to start off. Pardon the sound of my voice today, listening audience. I have a little bug, a little inclement under the weather, so we're going to try to proceed as normal. But we always have to start off with the illustrious and magnanimous McKinley Senior High School, which played their arch rival,
Big Blue,
Capital High School, and opened a can of high school. And it's a shame to say that Capital has been falling by the wayside for the past several years.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, we beat Capital 40 to nothing.
Come on, man. What that score was again?
40 to nothing for all you Capital Line alumni.
Now, was that final? Because I know for the Advocate at publication time, they was still in the fourth quarter. They didn't have a final score.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Wow.
It was 40 to nothing. Pierre, you care to chime in on that, being a former starring quarterback?
Yeah, because although that final score looks good and sounds good, I'm a little concerned of the 177 yards in penalties that the McKinley Panthers racked up yesterday. And, you know, the capital program is really struggling right now. So Panther fans, don't get overly excited. District play is coming up, and I'm not certain we're going to have any more scores similar to this in our favor.
5-5A is real. It is real.
Let me run down a couple of other local scores real quick. The machine that Catholic High is, their epitome of winning at this time. They beat Mandeville 48 to nothing.
Wow. And in that game, too, LSU committee Darren Geis rolled up 274 all-purpose yards, 264 of them in the first half. So we know that Dale Weiner, Coach Dale Weiner of Catholic High, took his foot off the gas in the second half. But Geis scored on a 76-yard touchdown run, and then took the ball 46 yards on a hook and lateral on the last play in the first half for another score. He finished with 182 yards on 11 carries. So last year he had some injury issues. We weren't sure if he was going to come back full speed, especially with the LSU commitment. Right. That answers that. Even though it's just Mandeville, that answers that question.
Right. And I think that if Ferret doesn't watch out, his job is in trouble next year.
He's not sleeping too easy these days.
Right.
What ranked is he in is he in the top 100?
Oh, he's got to be. I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but he's got to be. I mean, I know he was heavily coveted last year as a junior. So, I'm sure he's way up there on the ESPN ranking.
Okay, Christian Life also beat East Iberville 54 to nothing. Dutchtown 43 to 0 over Donaldsonville, which is quite surprising. Yeah. Donaldsonville has a program that are consistently winners.
Yeah.
And that's Dutchtown bouncing back after being upset last week by Class 4A Lutcher.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really. Continuing on, East Feliciana beat Bel Air 20 to 8. Lutcher beat McDonald 35 from New Orleans 40 to 35
in overtime.
Well. Yep. In overtime. Tara beat Amite County, Mississippi 26 to 20, and Santamar blanked Higgins 41 to 0, and finally Port Allen 66 points against Redemptress. Amazing score.
Oh yeah, man, that Port Allen football team is they've turned things around since last year. One other score also, East St. John nipped Scotlandville 15-14 at Scotlandville last night. LSU committee quarterback Xavier Lewis, suffered a minor injury early, but it was to his shoulder, so it kept him from playing quarterback the rest of the game. But he came back, lined up a tailback and receiver, and played defensive back. So this is a very, very versatile athlete that we have. LSU's got some talent coming in last year from the Baton Rouge metropolitan area.
Absolutely, Eric. And remember, Xavier Lewis was scheduled to be on our show a couple of weeks ago.
That's
and
right.
East St. John practice ran a little long. So we'll see if we can reschedule that and ask him about his shoulder.
Right, absolutely. So I think that's going to I can't speak this morning. Wind up our high school report unless anybody else has anything further to chime in.
Sir.
All righty. So Perry, do we want to go to our college guys, or do we want to talk about the pros, or which way do we want to go here?
Let's go professional football, man, and start off.
Man, you want to jump up to the big boys.
Yep.
And let's start off with our Saints.
All right.
And go from there.
Okay. Well, our New Orleans Saints, I put this, didn't quite live up to expectations last week. They played their arch rival, Atlanta Falcons, and, the Dirty Birds got to them. The Saints gave up 17 unanswered points in the second half. Although they recovered the lead late, they wound up Matt Bryant tied the score on the last play of regulation, sent it to overtime, and then a costly penalty by Marcus Colston in Saints territory wound up being the Saints' undoing as they lost by a field goal in overtime. So this week the Saints have the Cleveland Browns coming up. Not quite as daunting an opponent, and even though they're going up north, it's still September, so the weather's probably great for playing football outside right now. The Saints should be favored in this game, but they've had trouble, interestingly, with Cleveland over the years. Of all the other 31 NFL teams, the only team against which Cleveland has a winning record since returning to the NFL in '99. The new Cleveland Browns is the Saints. They are 3-1 against the Saints. They have either even or losing records against every other NFL opponent. They, of course, beat the Saints in 2010 after Drew Brees had his son. And, Cleveland's a team to watch out for. They gave Pittsburgh a run last week. They have a tough defense, and it's always hard to win on the road. So while on paper the Saints should make up for, defensive ineptitude last week and turnovers and penalties, they got to play the games. And so Saints, I'm sure the Saints coaching staff and players are aware of that, and fans should not be too comfortable going into tomorrow. I'm gonna let you guys get on some of that action.
First off, I want to say, we talked about this last week, me and Perry and everything, and from my understanding, I did say last week that the Saints would score over 30 points.
Right.
And I was correct about that. But, it really threw me for a loop that their defense, if you score 34 points, I think you should win the game. You should have a high percentage chance of winning the game.
Sure.
But it's just like our defense reverted back to
2012,
two years ago, and it just was like, man, they allowed them to come down with 20 seconds before the first half and score a field goal.
Right.
And then I knew when they came and got the lead at the fourth quarter with a minute and something left, it was just like you just knew what was going to happen. And it was just like, wow, man, and that really was a disappointment.
Well, I think that Matt Ryan is becoming a consummate quarterback.
I agree.
Ryan is floor general, field general.
Right.
Excellent game manager, accurate arm, plays within the offense, plays within the scope of his system.
Right.
So you have to give kudos to Matt Ryan.
I do. No, here's the thing. I mean, Matt Ryan threw for 448 yards in the air, and that was a Falcons franchise record. It didn't, but I'll tell you what, the defense wasn't what bothered me as much as Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Roddy White. You're only going to bottle those guys up so much. You know what I'm saying? That didn't bother as much as the turnovers and the penalties. You had the hands to the face penalty that wiped out a third down conversion deep in Falcons territory early in the game. You had the interception in the end zone that set up one of those Falcons field goals.
That's right.
That took 3 points off the board and flipped it the other way. And then you had the fumble in overtime. Defense giving up yards against very good players, Pro Bowlers like Matt Ryan and Roddy White and Julio Jones, that can happen. That's forgivable. What's not forgivable are the foolhardy penalties and turnovers that I think they sunk the Saints to me. And obviously the most visible one was the Marcus Colston fumble. That was the killer. But there was plenty of that to go throughout the entire game, and that has got to change. Or Cleveland, as bad as their passing game looks, Cleveland can make it difficult in their own building.
Yeah, I think so. And I think a real big thing to me was that they had a time where the Saints had made them go 3 and out. It was in the fourth quarter.
Right.
I think it was like maybe 5 minutes left.
Right.
And the Saints come right back, only take 20 seconds off the clock.
Right.
And go 3 and out again. Those are the times when you have to be able to move the ball, take some time off the clock.
Right.
And the play calling was kind of, to me, was, it's that's neither here nor there now. But so we'll see what they're going to do against the Browns,
When you start off 0-2, you only have about a 1 in 8 chance of reaching the playoffs.
Right.
So while this game is a very winnable one for the Saints, they had better win this winnable game.
What did the Browns do last week here?
The Browns played the Pittsburgh. Now look, the Browns impressed me last week. They fell behind early against Pittsburgh, and then rallied back in that game. I'm going to throw out the. I was actually watching, and I believe the score was they rallied back to tie it 27-all, and I think Roethlisberger. Suddenly the clouds parted. Roethlisberger got the Steelers down the field, and they kicked a field goal as time expired. But I'll tell you, Cleveland roared back in that game against the Steelers. I want to say they scored 21 or 24 points in the second half.
And came back.
Yeah.
But what disappointed me was now it makes me look at it because Pittsburgh only scored 6 points against Baltimore. So you was thinking that maybe they was. So maybe Cleveland is not as good as we think.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
I agree with you. I think that they showed, though, that they had some character. I mean, they showed some things that I think coaches want to see in their team. But you're right. We don't know that Pittsburgh game. We don't know how much of a measuring stick that really is. But we're going to find out. And I'll tell you what. Like I said, the Saints had better come ready to play. I do think they're going to have a much without Josh Gordon in the lineup, and we're going to get to that in a moment, but without Josh Gordon in the lineup and with Brian Hoyer, still looked a little tentative in that first half last week against the Pittsburgh defense that was a little tentative themselves. They didn't have Julio Jones and Roddy White. That's going to be, the Saints can win this game, but it's going to be something to watch. Interesting, last week, did anybody notice that kung fu that Antonio Brown pulled out on the Cleveland Browns punter? Oh, that was a sight to see.
Yeah,
so.
It was 2 kung fu moves. It was Steve Smith did a a judo move.
Right.
This guy come to it like Taekwondo or MMA or something.
So Cleveland definitely proved they can recover from a kick in the face.
Okay, so let's get our picks on record for that Saints game today.
Oh, I like the Saints and I like them to cover. I think the spread's 6 points. I mean, I expect them to win this game. I expect them to win.
And on that note, I wanted to say that I hear that they're taking Ray Rice's jerseys off at the market, and you can trade them in for wife beaters.
Oh. Boom, boom. Well,
let me get my pick in. Perry, I know Perry last week, just to poke fun at him. Perry said that, if I'm not mistaken, that Florida, was it the Oklahoma State game, that you said that they would blow, that Florida State would blow these people out, but okay, we'll get to that later. My pick is I'm taking the Saints over 48. The combined score is over 48.
Yeah.
With Cleveland?
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
Saints over.
Okay.
Oh yeah, well the way things looked last week, the only way the Saints are going to win is if they
I think
score.
I'm go under on that game.
Really? Under?
I think maybe the weather, and I think that I don't know if Cleveland. I think our defense has something to prove, and I think that I don't know if Cleveland can put up that many amount of points. I think we'll probably maybe put up 27. So I'm going 27-14.
Yeah, I have faith in our defense. Like I said, what I saw last week, look, kudos to Matt Ryan because he is Matt Ryan, and they are really good. Their offensive line, that Jake Matthews guy, that rookie, he held his own.
Yeah.
He held his own against some ferocious Saints pass rush. I mean, they just a good. I'm not disappointed when the Saints give up a lot of yards against a good team and they didn't do anything stupid. I expect them to play a lot better this week, but we'll find out. That's Chris Berman says that's why they play the games. So, and speaking of the Cleveland Browns, we of course like to keep you updated as a story advances, and we've talked about a lot of AFC North news between the Ravens and Browns. We talked about the Josh Gordon suspension. He had a year-long suspension for a repeat offense of the NFL's drug program. Adam Schefter, ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter, is reporting that Josh Gordon's year-long suspension is expected to be reduced to 10 games. The NFL Players Association voted Friday to accept an NFL proposal on drug policy changes. It included HGH testing, which we talked about a little bit. That had been a topic, an issue, if you will. And also to reduce some of the punishments for drug offenses like marijuana. Wes Welker, who had tested for, I believe it was Molly or an amphetamine or something, his suspension was lifted. They really pull back a little bit. Also, Orlando Scandrick of the Dallas Cowboys, he'll be able to return to his team pending approval. Interestingly, the NFL threshold for marijuana testing of 15 nanograms per milliliter, a lot of players complained that it was so low that anybody in the vicinity of people smoking marijuana could test positive. That secondhand marijuana smoke stuff that Josh Gordon had claimed, that threshold has been lifted to 35 nanograms per milliliter. So it looks like in the wake of some very bad decision making with the Ray Rice, the initial Ray Rice suspension in contrast to Josh Gordon, looks like the league reacted. And I got to say, this is definitely a lot more palatable to me as just a spectator than the kind of draconian punishments they had before for marijuana use.
So let's do this. Let's table the rest of that conversation regarding that until there's some finalization between the league and the union, and let's move on to Adrian Peterson.
Adrian Peterson, I don't even know where to start with this one. You want to talk about I'll just start with the headline itself. Adrian Peterson, the Minnesota Vikings star running back, was booked in the Montgomery County Jail yesterday, released about a half hour later on $15,000 bond. He was indicted by a grand jury on charges of reckless or negligent injury to a child, and a warrant was issued for his arrest. Wow. He flew back to Minnesota Saturday morning, but he was deactivated for their game. They host the Patriots on Sunday. This is what we know. Adrian Peterson's attorney, Rusty Hardin, issued a statement saying that his client's conduct included using a switch to spank his son. Excuse me. According to Sports Radio 610 in Houston, Peterson removed the leaves of a tree branch, which he referred to in a police report as a switch, to hit his 4-year-old child. Now, photos of the child's legs were leaked on the internet, and you can definitely see some scarring, some cutting. You know, I almost don't know what to. You know, part of me says, oh, it's these soft, modern day hippie pinko parents don't want to discipline kids, and as a character in the show Boondocks once said, I hate to see a child go unbeaten. You know, parents should be able to whip a little behind, but when you look at it, you consider this is a 4-year-old child, I mean, barely out of the toddler phase, and you see some of the cuts and scars, and we do live in what I would hope is a more enlightened time. It can be a little unsettling. I don't know that this, personally speaking for myself, Eric Hatfield, I don't know that it would should necessarily rise to criminal charges, but
what about this? Now, is this considered domestic or violence? Because it is domestic, and you know, they talk about women. What about kids? So that's going to be something to look at.
And you're right on. And actually, we talked about the new domestic violence policy 2 weeks ago, and obviously we were focused on the impact on women because of the Ray Rice story. But it actually mentioned stiffer penalties when minors are involved, and it wasn't just for women. So I don't have it in front of me right now, but this is going to be another tree that grows more branches in the NFL.
Well, I think that, man, this is a very touchy subject matter. The right of parents to have the autonomy to discipline their children as they see fit, and the governmental aspect, the public policy aspect of it with social workers and things of that nature, and looking out for the best interests of the child. I'm just kind of torn between this matter. As Eric said, personally, no one wants to see a child become abused. However, a child does need discipline and guidance. Now, was it actually a tree branch or was it a switch? Now, in hindsight, I can remember kids getting whipped with extension cord or whatever mom could grab, a slipper or a shoe or a Converse.
Race car track, you know.
So with that being said, I guess all of us were abused if we're going to speak of it in that vein, Perry. What do you think?
You're absolutely right, Carol, and this is a greater social issue. And it's a cultural issue.
I agree.
You know, that this is the way that, African Americans handle their children. I'm not certain if it's right or wrong. The professor and I had a conversation about a week and a half ago regarding, this type of situation and it being residue from slavery.
Terry, you took the words. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
It is. It is residue from slavery that the only way to get a black or an African American to do something is to beat them. And culturally, we have to make this transition from that. Now, being the father of 5, there are times where I could have been charged, for abuse.
I bet you they didn't do it again.
I can say that about 4 of the 5. One was particularly hard-headed, and it took more than once. So it's how do we move forward with this? How do we transition as a culture? And does this man deserve to lose his job like a Ray Rice just did based on him trying to discipline his child? And my justification when dealing with my children was that, I am doing this so that the police don't have to.
Of course.
It's Perry, when you said that thing about it going back to slavery, it's like that. You took the words right out of my mouth. It does go back to that. I just don't. If this child was 10 instead of 4, or 12, I might be able to internalize it a bit more. But he is 4. He did have cuts and the skin was broken, and the child didn't pick up the phone and call the police. Somebody else did. So it was unsettling enough for an adult to take action.
The mother took him to 2 different doctors. Now, her reason and rationale, a lot of times there are different opinions between the father and the mother on how to rear the child.
Indeed. And that very... Go ahead, Pierre. I'm sorry.
So for her to take this child to two different doctors, seeing those open wounds, I question her motivation.
Of course, I was going to say this could possibly and tentatively be a smear tactic from the parents, that they may be going through a certain situation in their personal lives, you know, the love lorn, for lack of a better term. So that could be involved. But ultimately, we want to look at the welfare and the stability of the child's life. No one wants to see a child injured. That crosses the color barrier lines, period. That's the paramount concern. However, there's other facets that go into this whole equation. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, but I think that what's going to drive this, in the day and age that we're in now with this social media, and the way that, just like how, you know, Ray Rice was disciplined in what he did legally, and then the NFL suspended him 2 games. But when that video came out, the social media exploded. And if social media gets behind this thing and calls for something for Adrian Peterson, it seems like we kind of fold. We get away from the values and get away from whether it's right or wrong. We just don't want to be, you know, people to, you know, to have bad comments, and they put so much pressure, just like they did Goodell. They put all that pressure on Goodell. He got all that bad publicity, and he instantly started to change stuff, and he kind of sacrificed Ray Rice to save his job.
He caved.
This thing with that social media, if they get on Adrian Peterson, they really just jump on it, whether we think that is, you know, is right or wrong, you know, it's going to have an impact on him.
You know, and there are a couple of things to consider. It goes beyond, you know, a video. First of all, a couple of things. You mentioned social media. The impact of video and visuals make a difference. As we've seen how temperaments and things change when you can actually see an incident with your eyes as opposed to just hearing about it, because what actually happened and changed.
Eric, but that should not be the case. Nowhere in the recent toughening ruling that the NFL came out with did it mention anything about the severity of domestic violence. Domestic violence by its very nature is ugly. And we have to make that assumption when there's a domestic violence charge. It should not have taken a video for the NFL to change their song. I don't quite get the rationale. And then once you lay out some rules, then for you to punish him in a severity that is totally outside of the lines of the rules you just laid out on your tougher policy, I just don't get it.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, it just doesn't make quite good sense to me. Now, I have an interview calling in now. I'm going to click over and answer. We have a couple of victims of domestic violence that want to chime in on this subject.
You know, and I just want to piggyback on Perry. I understand the rationale. I just think it's a bunch of bull. I mean, the rationale is this video got out, people saw it and reacted and damaged the league's image even more, and he had to, like you said, Joker, he had to throw Ray Rice under the bus. Now, I think that was a bad idea. If I'm Roger Goodell, you know, you've already taken egg on your face once for the 2-game suspension. I think everyone agrees that was too light. I'll just be like, look, we messed up. We've made changes going forward, but the Ray Rice case is settled, and leave it alone.
Leave it alone. It's double jeopardy.
Because people know that he hit his wife. I mean, the video is ugly, but we already know what he did. You know, I think he made it worse trying to save face. You know, he should have just eaten his peas, so to speak, on the initial mess up and moved forward. He made it much worse by reacting to this tape, and I think the Ravens also made it worse by releasing him after the suspension.
You know, Eric, I think that, as you just mentioned, he was thrown under the bus. I think that this whole Ray Rice scenario, Ray Rice is being ignominiously crucified. I mean, he's to the point where, I mean, domestic violence is a travesty, but Ray Rice's stance now, I mean, he's the poster child for domestic abuse right now. And I'm hearing echoes that the wife is saying, well, look, leave us alone. It's not that bad. It's not your concern. Why has it developed to this level? So you have to kind of take that into account, too. I know sometimes the victims of abuse are not. They don't want to accept that is actually abuse.
That's right.
That's one of the symptoms of abuse.
Well, that looked like a Ray Leonard left cross, so that was definitely abuse. We ain't getting around that.
But I understand what you're saying,
Yeah, I
Professor,
feel you.
because it'll be a difference if she was speaking out saying, I'm not getting any, no help and everything.
Right.
Then I could see him kind of getting on Ray rights.
Right.
But if she's saying, hey, I forgave him. This is my husband now. We have a family. This is bringing more, problem, to our marriage and everything, and to my child. I have forgiven him. So why can't you? Well, we all just move on with this. We done covered this already.
Right.
So that's my point too. I like what you said.
We have a couple of female opinions that want to get involved on this.
Great.
And Eric, as you know, I always say that our sports show doesn't have enough estrogen involved.
Wow.
So I have two ladies here. One, my sister, Teresa McKinley. Hi,
Hey.
fellas.
Hey, Tree.
Hello.
What's going on? How you doing?
Wow.
I'm doing good.
Long time. Hadn't talked to you since the 80s.
And she has with her a domestic violence victim, and we will refer to her as Ann on the show.
Okay.
And ladies, if we could just let's start off by giving your opinion of this entire Ray Rice situation. Let's start with Teresa, and then we'll move over to Ann.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I saw the video, and I was appalled by the video of him hitting her. I think he hit her twice, but I don't know all the background to it. But my stance is a man should never hit a woman. And provoked or not provoked, sometimes you just have to walk away from the situation. Now, that's my opinion of the video.
Okay. And if we could get your thoughts.
Yes. I saw the video as well. And I agree with Teresa on the, about, we saw what happened. He did hit her. I don't think a man can hit a woman. You didn't see the whole thing. And I honestly believe that, as women, we should keep our hands to ourselves as well. Now, I know some people are not going to agree with that, but, we didn't see what happened, what transpired before that, but he should not have hit her that hard. He should not have knocked her out like that.
Right.
He should have walked away.
Well, and to your point, we did see at the beginning of the video her hit him. And then in the elevator, she supposedly spit on him.
Right.
Does that matter?
Ooh, Jesus, that's okay. Morally, you want to say that he should hit her, and I think honestly he should have walked away because that was her own bad judgment to hit him. Her physical strength and his physical strength are two different things.
Right.
By no means did when he hit her. When she hit him, did she even remotely come close to knocking him out?
Right.
And
Right.
Strength, and go ahead.
Okay,
And
so
also.
tell me this, though. Okay, and I'll allow you to finish that answer, but tell me this. Does the justification, does the crime, so to speak, since he wasn't charged, but does the action justify what took place, the punishment? Does it justify him losing his job?
Honestly, I don't think so. Unfortunately, it's my opinion. One situation had nothing to do with the other. It did. And if it had not been televised or, the media hadn't gotten a hold of it, we still would not have got it. He still would have had his job. I don't think that the punishment fit the crime. I mean, yeah, he should have some type of consequence that he faced, be it with him and his wife counseling, whatever they need to go through together. But I don't think it should have had any effect on his job.
What about you, Ann?
Okay, that was Ann speaking. This is
Okay.
I'm on the other end. I do feel that he should be punished by his job. Now, losing his job for life is something different. They gave him a 2-game suspension. Saying they didn't see the video, but they knew that he knocked her out. So if you go back and you say, okay, I'll give you two games for that, and then now you say forever, that's a different situation. I don't agree with that.
Okay, so A couple more questions, and then I'm going to have to let you ladies go. And we really appreciate you joining the Louisiana All American Sports radio show this morning. The first question is regarding the Adrian Peterson situation and the allegations of child abuse. I'm not sure if you two are aware, but yesterday Adrian Peterson was arrested. He turned himself in for allegedly whooping his 4-year-old son and causing open wounds, and that led to the indictment of child abuse placed against him. Your thoughts on those things from both of you?
Okay. Now, I'm going to have two different views, because as an educator, child abuse is something that needs to be reported immediately. But then again, if you are a parent, I do understand maybe the discipline of spanking. But to leave marks, to leave bruises, that's different. And a 4-year-old,
right.
I agree with the arrest. Yeah, I think the marks, the bruises, that's unnecessary. That's expected. You can without having to leave any physical damage on them. And at 4 years old, I don't think you need to take out switches themselves either. There are other ways of disciplining a child at that age. You don't have to take that much physical abuse for a young child like that.
As Donna Reed wants, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to give both of these ladies the opportunity to present their final thoughts on those subjects, and especially from Ann, I'd like to hear about the continued relationship between Ray Rice and his now wife, and whether or not she feels or she has any thoughts regarding the marriage moving forward after this incident that took place.
Yes, okay, so as far as the marriage staying together, these sort of abuse, it started before they got married. My situation, same difference, wasn't at that level. And when you're with someone, you feel like, they apologize and they're not going to do it again. But then with me, I have enough self-esteem. It's come back to me. Then, okay, now I don't trust you. It's not a good feeling to live in a relationship or live in a home where you're always concerned about someone telling you they're going to kill you, I'm going to flip this car, and of course I'm talking about personal experience. Having to sleep in a bedroom, a separate bedroom, on the floor against the door because I'm not sure what you're going to do in the middle of the night. And I got to the point I was like, I would rather leave everything that I had. When I left, I had my son's couple of $100, but I spoke out and I asked for help. It can be very embarrassing if you allow it to be, because when you hide it, no one can help you, and you're dealing by yourself. It'll affect your self-esteem. It'll affect your thinking. You start doubting yourself. And I feel like it takes a lot of loving yourself, being open and talking about it, in order to give you the courage and the strength to know that you can get out of the situation and you can move on. And as far as for her staying there, the way I saw it, in my opinion, for me, it was only going to get worse. Because a person will only do what you allow them to do. And if you allow someone to hit you and then come back and say, baby, I'm sorry, then they hit you again, and then you allow them to come back and say, I'm sorry, they're going to pick up on that pattern, as well as that you're a weak person and they can, demean you and minimalize you and make you feel like they have you in the palm of their hand and that you're afraid to leave. And some women are afraid to leave because of the threat that, they're being told. I just had enough faith that I had to step out and, I called my parents and I said, come get me. And it's for her, I don't know if he's still doing it. They say they've gone to church, going to counseling, and maybe it'll work. Maybe it'll be a continuous situation where he's constantly getting help and assistance, and he doesn't lay her hand on her anymore. But, if it comes to a point where she realizes this is never a technique, I just hope that she has the strength to move out. Sometimes you have to leave your worldly goods behind, and what you leave behind got to open another door if you do better. And that's my take on it.
Absolutely. We thank you for joining us, Ann. Teresa, do you have any final words on the subject?
I think all was said. That was perfect what she said.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, ladies.
Enjoy.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
All right. So always good to get a perspective
Right.
from the ladies.
Well, ladies,
Never mind. Anyway,
Eric, let me interject real quickly some thoughts, 2 minutes on what the ladies just said. Domestic abuse is really a travesty across the board. However, I just feel that Perry made some points, and I saw him leading the ladies into some things there. I think that individuals, we are free moral agents. We are individuals with free will, and we're free to choose, but we are not free from the consequences of our choices.
Right.
So when Perry said the statement that she spit on him, and the young lady came back and recanted with, well, his physical stature is stronger than hers. Well, I don't want to sound acrimonious or chauvinistic.
Right.
However, you should have thought about that. If that was the case, if you spit on him, you should have thought about, well, this is a man. I shouldn't spit on him. So
right.
you're not free from the consequences of your choices, and that just goes across the board in all facets of life.
Right. No, I agree with you. I've often given the example that I have a right to walk up and down the street and mind my own business all I want to. I have a right to do it any time of the day.
Right.
I have a right to go into a very rough neighborhood with a reputation for crime and drugs and robbery at 3 in the morning, whistling if I want to. But if I get a gun put in my face and get stuff taken from me, that guy had no right to do it. I had a right to be there, but you know what? I probably should have chosen to walk elsewhere.
Right.
And with this woman here, look, she was not free from the consequences of spitting on him. The consequences, of course, being taken left to the jaw. And of course, Ray Rice is not free from his consequences either. There's a lot to go around. You know what I'm saying?
Not at all. And I think what made it look real bad on Ray Rice's part, like you said, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and a video is worth 1,000 pictures.
Right.
You see the video, and what really kind of struck me is that when he did hit her, he showed no type of, like, wait a minute, baby. Oh,
it's like he dropped his cell phone.
He just kept looking at her, and then he picked her up and drove. And I think that struck a lot of people too, because sometimes you can react to getting spit on or something, but at least you'll catch yourself afterwards, like, man, what did I do?
Exactly. I agree.
And
totally.
That's what made it look real bad. That he just hit her and then just stood there like,
I gotta get her out of here now. Scrape. Yeah.
And she's laying there, and her dress is coming up, and she's just like limp, and he's just still standing there like, hey, well, she's drunk or whatever. So I think that was kind of what, that made it look a little bit worse. But I agree with you all.
A couple of things here before we move on into the professor segment is that final thoughts on this subject, man. Greg Hardy of the Carolina Panthers was convicted of assault on his girlfriend in July. No suspension has been placed on him. Ray McDonald is the first one, the new policy. Ray McDonald, the player for the San Francisco 49ers, and he was accused of abusing his 11-week pregnant girlfriend of domestic abuse. So, that being said, here's my final take on this, is that you cannot promote violence 6 days out of the week and then expect these men to be non-violent when they have to encounter their spouses, their co-workers. They've been bred since they were 7 and 8 years old in violence. Football is a violent game, and we would like to think that they can turn it on and turn it off. But obviously, with the NFL having so many issues of this type, maybe they cannot. I'm not saying they should be given a pass.
They're almost 18.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
I'm not saying that they should be given a pass, but I am saying that just maybe the nature of their job, it has some factor in these NFL players committing this act in such high numbers. Lastly, where was the outrage when Ben Roethlisberger was accused of raping this 22-year-old girl, and his second accusation of rape.
Well,
Where was the female outrage to get him barred from the NFL?
Well, he was suspended for 6 games, and it was pretty bad. Remember, he wasn't. There were no charges filed. There's no video, and he got.
He was
Excuse me.
4 games.
Mm-hmm.
4 games. So,
but
we gotta. I hear you, and I hear you trying to get, but for time, we got to get the professor in on his segment.
Absolutely.
We got a huge game between Southern and Northwestern State coming up, so we got to talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. And without further ado, Professor, you ready for history class?
Of course.
Let's get the class in session.
Business. Black business. Black business. Love black thing.
As always, we want to show deference to those, the tree that bore us as a fruit. I have to give a shout out continually to the McKinley Senior High School family and the Panther Pops, which is a group of gentlemen, parents that are working hard to assist Mr. Bristol in his transition. Also, I want to acknowledge the McKinley Senior High School family who has their homecoming this weekend at the school. We're playing Opelousas, so we're looking for a great, peaceful, unity-filled turnout. There's going to be tailgating with all the bells and whistles as we've always done. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and put that out before I begin my segment.
Big Blue
Go
Machine.
Big Blue.
Go Big Blue.
I want to answer a couple of emails, and I'm really excited about the information, the response that I've been getting via Facebook and other methods that individuals have been listening to what we've been attempting to disseminate. The young lady wanted me to just kind of reiterate briefly on what was said about the Grimaldi's, and I'm going to take about a minute to address that. When I mentioned the segment last week about the Grimaldi's who migrated from northern Africa about 60,000 years ago, and she wanted a little clarification on what exactly the exact issue that I was saying. Literally, the Grimaldi's were individuals that they were African, Africoid features, and they migrated into southern Europe. These are some of the early ancestors of the modern-day Europeans. These people were found, and they were named Grimaldi because they were found in the town of Grimaldi in France. That's not the name of their race or tribe. That's just archaeologists discovered the remains there of Africoid skeletons in a proper burial grave adorned with gold and other ornaments of the era. So I hope that kind of clarifies actually what I was saying, if I omitted to say that I was remiss in doing so. Secondly, to respond to another email asking for clarity, when I spoke last week about the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD and the Emperor Constantine, and if you look at the chronologue of the year 325 AD, they've gotten away from saying AD and BC. They say the Common Era now. So at any rate, 325 years after Jesus' ascension to heaven, if you will, or him leaving the earth in his physical presence, there was still no actual literal scripture in place. 325 years there was still strife and arguments about the nature of Jesus Christ himself. Was he God? Was he God's son? Was he a prophet? So on and so forth. You had various factions of Christianity that was arguing. So as I stated, the Emperor Constantine composed the Council of Nicaea, which was a council of bishops, Arianists, and other various figureheads that were around the area, Thessalonica, and so on and so forth. And they decided to come together to iron out an actual doctrine, and they created the Catholic Church. The word Catholic means universal, the one church. And this is where you get the Apostolic Creed. We believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, all the seen and unseen, Holy Mary, Mother of God, thus and so forth. So all this information comes from the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, and the process of canonization was also evolved out of this meeting. The canonization means what was scripturally sound, what would go in, and what would not, what would be accepted as a heretic. There were various scrolls, if you will, that were present during this time period that they decided what would or would not go into the Bible that they were compiling. And at this time period, they decided this, and as I was saying, Eric is shaking his head in agreement with me about the formation of the Catholic Church. They created the hierarchy. Actually, one of the Apostle Peter is actually considered to be the first pope.
That's right.
They have St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican now, and it is stated that the remains of Peter are there in the Vatican. So with that being said, I hope that kind of gives you some clarity on the information that I mentioned about the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, the Emperor Constantine, and the Emperor Constantine is the biggest, one of the major patriarchs of the promoting of funding into building of Catholic cathedrals all across his vast empire. However, the Emperor Constantine himself was, as I mentioned, a worship of Mithras, who was the god of the winter solstice, and I kind of elaborated on the winter solstice, the summer solstice, and the two equinoxes as well, which are the 4 seasons of the year. I explained that last week, but the Emperor Constantine...
All right.
Sir?
Can we...
Wrap it up?
Yeah, we got to jump into this Atlanta Hawks.
Okay, well, in closing, that's the gist that I got on the road, but I just want to mention 2 minutes, period, if I can, 2 minutes only. I wanted to just mention today's factor, which was the 42 Negative Confessions, which is a document that comes out of ancient Kemet, for those of you that are not aware of it. In closing, the 42 Negative Confessions is a list of information or rules that they abided by, that Moses was aware of since he was raised under that doctrine, that the actual, it is believed that the 10 Commandments comes from the 42 Negative Confessions. So for time purposes, I'm going to close there. But if you get a chance, go and Google it. And always investigate the information you receive. If it is indeed the truth, it should stand the test of investigation. Peace.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Hey, fellas, we got 7 minutes into Noel Jackson with Music Satisfaction. Coming up right after our show. Let's get some thoughts on the Atlanta Hawks situation around the horn. Eric, I'm sure you want to jump in first.
Sure. Let me just to bring everybody up to speed. We have a two-part situation. The latest part involving their general manager. Earlier this week, it was reported that the Atlanta Hawks owner was going to put his team up for sale in response to the NBA's response to an email that was put out regarding the marketing of his team, and there was some racially charged rhetoric in there, kind of basically degrading his black audience, if you will. And then it's like the lightning just strikes twice. I'm sure Adam Silver thought it was Groundhog Day, because he wakes up and he hears this conference call with Danny Ferry. It was a scouting call, and he had made some comments about Luol Deng, said, quote, he had a little African in him, and then went on to say, basically saying Luol Deng was two-faced in so many words, but let it off with saying he has a little African in him. That caused a whole lot of stirring, and Adam Silver's just got to be shaking his head. I think Adam Silver wants to break a switch off the tree and start hitting some of his executives and owners. I'll let you guys go ahead and jump in. That's the lead in on the story.
Hey man, I guess David Stern must have seen it coming before he handed over the reins to Adam Silver, and now he's starting to. Man, this social media and the way that nothing now is private now is, you have to be very, very careful. But this is a kind of an ugly pattern that we're seeing, man. And
one thing I wanted to add too is when Danny Ferry made the comment that he has a little African in him, you can hear 2 guys in the background saying, "Oh, that's going to be on TMZ tonight." And well, ding, shoot. Perry?
Professor, your thoughts.
Professor, your thoughts.
Perry, I stepped away. I didn't have the headphone on, so I really didn't even hear the comment. I'm sorry about that. Could you repeat it?
Okay, no, it's all good, all good. We were speaking regarding the Atlanta Hawks situation and their owner being forced out now that he was caught kind of degrading his current fan base and desiring, following the Adam Silver created plan of the NBA owner, for the NBA owners, to make sure that their fan base was diverse enough to garner the most profits. So he made comments such as, the black audience that attends the Atlanta Hawks games, their average spend isn't high enough, and that their in-game spend isn't very high. So he wants the white male, the dominant culture male,
yes, sir,
to attend his games. because they tend to spend more money.
Basically.
He also stated that the reason why his season ticket sales are so low is because the dominant culture, males between the ages of 35 and 45, won't buy season tickets for fear of crimes being perpetrated against them while attending the Hawks game.
Yeah, double-edged sword. Basically said that his black customers are scaring white folks and they don't spend enough money to kick the anthill a little bit, you know?
Well, just briefly, Perry, does any of this surprise anyone?
Not me.
No, not at all.
We continue to have this reoccurring theme of racial issues that occurs. It just exacerbates itself, or it reveals itself in different ways, whether it's through sports or through Ferguson. This issue always comes up, and it's just an issue that we've never really addressed in its totality. And it crosses economic lines, religious lines, educational lines, financial lines. And it's just, as Eric said, a double-edged sword. I think it's a travesty. People are spending money with this gentleman.
Right.
But again, too, we all have a choice, but you're not free from the consequences of your choice.
That's right.
You can stop going to his games.
Yeah.
You can stop supporting the Atlanta Hawks. It's a whole lot of ways that we can.
But you know what, though, Professor?
Yes, sir.
The NBA and Adam Silver and the rest of that ownership gang can be free from consequences.
Okay.
Because the society as a whole will never hold them responsible because we just enjoy watching LeBron too much.
We do.
Well, I think Adam Silver can only be responsible for what Adam Silver does. And
Adam Silver did this, Eric. This is what you don't seem to get. Adam Silver has been a deputy commissioner. He orchestrated this model that these NBA owners are following. You keep trying to push this off to Stern, but Stern was just the figurehead. This is what led to Adam Silver getting promoted to the commissioner.
I think that we're finally starting to kind of realize, this is a boys' club. These guys are owners. These guys are billionaires.
Right.
We're starting to now see, how they really feel about certain players, and that's
45
kind of
seconds.
shocking to people.
45 seconds, guys.
Hey, man, I thank y'all for allowing me to come on here again. I want to thank Perry, as always. I want to thank Eric and Professor for allowing me to, to come in here and share my thoughts and everything with you guys. I'm shooting a movie right now. It's called The First of My Last 2 Hours, an independent film.
Cool.
I'll keep y'all updated, and peace.
And go ahead, Perry.
Go ahead.
As we always say,
ADT, JNS, love you.
have a good afternoon.
Peace. Go Big Blue.
Hail to the king and lots of love. May he protect us from the evil. Hail to the king, lots of love.